Thought I'd do a quick video here, just the basics about oil change on a John Deere A. This is an early style. This is the first year of the style. Style just means that it's got some of the tin on it. This is a 39A, and I just got it about a year ago. It's been sitting in the barn. Got it tinkered with it, put it back together. Just only have run it for a few minutes in that year, and definitely need to do an oil change. We should always do an oil change whenever you bring home anything, no matter what the person tells you, kind of condition they've kept it in or whatever. This, when I pulled that plug out, it's just gray, chunky stuff coming out. Smells like gear oil in there. This is really nasty. And you can see I've got that's your oil plug, what I've pulled right there. Right there is the filter housing. I cracked that just to let that bleed a little bit. But just really nasty, stinky stuff coming out there, and very, very thin. A lot of water mixed in there. So I'm gonna change that. I'm also going to be changing the transmission fluid. And you can see there's that drain plug there. That's for the transmission, and there's also a plug around here real quick. That big plug there, you want to make sure you pull that out too, and that'll drain your axles real well. Now to fill that, this is the fill, and again this is a 39A, no power troll or anything like that. So this is the fill right here, and you want to fill the just fill that cavity up until it starts out that hole. So it's real simple. There's no side check hole or anything on this model. You know, it's just real simple. You pour it in till it comes out and you're done. And the stuff that I'll be using, and this is per John Deere specifications, if you look at your books, they recommend the 140 weight for the temperatures that I'm going to be running it, which this thing's just going to put around the farm here. I'm not going to be pulling it. I'm not going to be out in the winter time. It's going to be pulling hay rides on birthdays and stuff like that, which is all these things anymore. That's what all anybody does with them. So I'm going to put the 140 weight in the transmission, and then I'm going to go with, it calls for a 40 weight. I'm going to go with 30 non-detergent simply because that's the easiest stuff I could find. Now, this is a cheap brand again, but oil today it's leaps and bounds ahead of what it was in 1939. So 30 weight now is going to be far superior than what a 30 weight was when they wrote that book. So as long as you're changing oil, you're using good clean oil, you're using modern oil. This non-detergent, that was kind of a big deal for me. They didn't have detergent back then. I don't want to deal with it now, so I'm going to put a non-detergent 30 in it. The Wicks filter that you want to use for this tractor, and a lot of them, is the 51242. And then through a lot of research, again, I had a lot of trouble finding good recommendations for plugs and stuff. This thing is running. The guy's been running in it. It's a Champion plug. It's got a W. It's probably not going to zoom right, but that's a W14. You can run a W14. You can run a W16, which is a tad hotter. And on the manual, when I got it from this guy, he had some paperwork with it. He had handwritten notes in the book that 14 was okay, 16 was a little hotter, and through my research I found that a W18 is even hotter and would work for that. But the W16 Champion translates to an Autolite 3076. So that's what I'm going to be putting in it. If it doesn't focus there, it's an Autolite it's an Autolite 3076, which again is a copper core. This is a non-resistor spark plug. That was a big deal for these old John Deeres. You want non-resistor stuff, so that was a big deal for me. So that's what I'm putting in it. I'm using the Wicks 51242 with 30 weight non-detergent, and I'm going to put 140 weight gear oil in it. The manual calls for 8.5 gallons in the transmission and 8 quarts in the engine. So The plug that it doesn't really, the John Deere recommendations are coming back so goofy that I'm just going to run essentially what's in it. It's got a W14 in it. W16s and W14s apparently is what the previous owner had. I'm going to run the Autolite 3076, which is a non-resistor spark plug. And all this stuff I was able to find at my local farm store, Batesville Farmer Tractor in Batesville, Indiana. I can't say enough about those guys. If you have trouble locating parts for your tractor, give them a shout, because I'm sure they'd be happy to help you. I mean, I looked all over Advance, AutoZone, O'Reilly, trying to piecemeal stuff together and get some help with stuff. And it was just so much easier just to go up to Batesville Farmer Tractor, walk in the door, and they sent me home with everything I needed. And they actually carried the stuff out to my truck for me. I'm a capable 36-year-old man, 2 good arms, 2 good legs. And they even carried this stuff out to the truck for me. So, I mean, it took me 2 or 3 trips. The one guy actually spent 2 trips carrying stuff out for me. Another guy took 1. So, I mean, you can't say enough about that kind of service. They were cheaper. If I could find 1 or 2 things around, maybe one place O'Reilly had, 3 gallons of the 140 weight, or AutoZone might have had, a gallon of this or that. By the time it was all said and done, they were way cheaper at the farm and tractor store than what I would have put, piecemealing spark plugs at one place, drive across town, even not even figuring the time and travel and gas mileage and all that. I just went to the farm store, Batesville Farm and Tractor, and walked out with everything, saved me a bunch of money. That being said, transmission fluid, engine oil, filter, and 2 spark plugs came up to $193. So this is not cheap. So that's why a lot of guys won't spend, they don't want to spend the money doing maintenance on a tractor like this that, just sitting forever and maybe fired up once or twice until, you get enough condensation in your engine block or in your transmission that it freezes one day. So that's a real concern, seeing this junk come out of this engine block. I mean, I could have kind of dodged a bullet with that. My grandfather recently had a Farmall that they hadn't changed the rear end or transmission fluid on that. I'm not real good on the Farmalls. I don't know exactly what to call it. But somebody hadn't changed it out. It developed enough condensation inside that it froze and split the casing. So that's it for me. Change your oil, change your transmission fluid.